Jarin Stevenson or Kanon Catchings? It's hard to pick when you've got two right choices.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked on Tar Heels.
You are Locked on Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, April 11th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked on Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making us your first listener watch to get your Friday going the right way. Big shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders, which is growing and growing and growing. Something about portal season has that effect on everybody. Pretty cool stuff. If you want to join that, hop on in, and the link is in the show notes. Coming up on the show today, man, Carolina has been cooking in the transfer portal market. Not many more spots they need to fill, but there is another critical one in the front court, so we'll look at that. We also want to talk about the importance of retaining Drake Powell and why keeping him is so necessary and important for this team. I want to get Coach's thoughts on that. And then we will also, Coach was at the Final Four last weekend in the building for all three of those games, including one on Saturday night that made us all very happy. By the way, I didn't introduce him, but our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, is here with us today, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes and a two-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School, Carolina Summer Basketball Camp, which is a great point to say. As we get into the summer and all these guys are on campus and playing pickup games, our guy will be in the building and be able to kind of fill us in on how things are looking, who's a dog, who's getting on the glass, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, he's written this great book, Carolina Basketball School, with, he's got his own copy there with 2 decades worth of content of, just the history of these things, stories, drills, all sorts of great stuff. And I have it on good authority from Coach, because he texted me this, that he hand-delivered a copy to Jay Billis himself at the Final Four, just rubbing some Carolina blue in his face, but legit. Like, I like Jay Billis. He's a good dude. And Coach, love that you're able to do that. A couple quick updates on some other things. We speculated on yesterday's show with Kyan Evans' commitment. That probably means no Trey Holloway, no Lee coming in either. And both of those things have been confirmed. Holloway, it sounds like, is not going to, that visit is being canceled this weekend. Lee has cut Carolina out. Also, he's not going to visit Duke. That was a false report as well. And also, speaking of the Kyan Evans episode, I want to shout out Derek Ball, who joined us in the comments on that show. Coach, coming all the way from Seoul, South Korea. Pretty cool stuff there to have him in our chat. Okay, let's get into this thing. Coach, it sounds like from the great reporting of Inside Carolina that the Tar Heels aren't done in the transfer portal, but they're wrapping things up. We know that Kanon Catchings is coming on his visit this weekend, but we also know that Jarin Stevenson, the hometown boy whose mama played for the Tar Heels, who kind of he reclassified, went on down to Alabama. That was painful for all of us. But now he too has entered the transfer portal, and both of these guys are in the mix for seemingly one spot, Coach. I would like to first know, would you just unpack a little bit about what you like about each of these young men as basketball players or young men, whatever,
Yeah, I love their size and their length, obviously. Catching 6'9", shoots it probably a little bit better than Stevenson does, but Stevenson's probably a better rim protector. Both, I think, can protect the rim pretty well. One's got 3 years left, 2 years left. Stevenson's got 2 years. I think Catching's got 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
That in the old school, that would factor into the decision. Today's market, I don't think it really matters because you're just building 1-year teams now, and if you get them, you're going to have them for a year regardless. So I don't really think that that's as big a factor as it is in the past. But we have to get bigger. So either one of them, I think, gets us bigger. Either one of them gets you a piece that you can work with. Neither one of them played a ton down the stretch. Neither one had a whole lot of production down the stretch, which scares me a little bit. Why weren't they getting the minutes to get the shots? But at the same time, I think you're looking for pieces to a puzzle. How is it all going to fit together? And that's why those meetings, I think, are so important, to get them on campus, get to look them in the eye, get a really chance to find out what they're all about.
One of the one of the things with both of these guys, coach, is obviously they would both play the four, can play down, with Alabama having that massive front line last year. Stevenson would play down at the three some because you'd have Grant Nelson at the four and Omori at the five. And so they had just that massive front line that was three dudes all at 6'11", which is insane to me that was their lineup. But both of these guys, while they would play the four, could go down to the three. It's not necessarily apples to apples, coach, because there are different things that they both do, but they are both, I think, guys that you would want on your roster. So when you're looking at this and you have two guys in front of you, it would be a lot easier if it was apples to apples because you just say, well, clearly you're better. But with these guys bringing a little bit of a different game and a little bit of different strengths and weaknesses to the table, how would you, if you're Hubert Davis, how would you go about making choices on this of who you want to offer?
Yeah, I think you talk about as a coaching staff, where are we headed offensively? Where are we headed defensively? What are the things we're looking for? Are we looking for a certain type of player to fit a certain type of system if you're changing things for next year? The biggest thing for me is to find guys I want to coach. And when you look them in the eye and you spend time with them and you really start to figure out who they are, what they're all about, we want guys that are bought into what we're doing, that they're more about we than about me. And those type of things are what those meetings are for. Really just want somebody who's excited about being part of what we have going forward and not looking at what this is going to help them do. And hopefully they'll be able to do that with those type of meetings and time you get to spend with them and their families.
And I think because of that, coach, from the outside looking in, one might feel more obvious than another at sometimes to those of us on the outside. And for that reason, sometimes you'll hear the decision or hear who's committing. It's like, I wanted the other guy, but maybe we don't know everything that's going on, right? Are there things behind the scenes that might make more sense that Johnny Q college basketball lover might not see?
Yeah, we had to happen with a president of the college one time. Went through an interview process, and I really liked the one guy, and he didn't get the job, and the other guy came in, and we became good friends. So you just never know, what's going on until you really get into the process. But it's hard for us to sit there and say, this is the one we want when we don't really get to spend that time. The coachability thing is a big thing for me. Obviously, as a coach, you want somebody that you just love to coach, love to be with around all day. Our season's 6 months. Their season's 9 or 10 months. Sometimes it's year round, and you want to be around somebody that you like to be with, like to work with, somebody who, when you see them, you're excited. They bring energy to the team. They bring energy to the room. And you don't want somebody that's constantly, an Eeyore. So that's just true. And we all have them.
Yeah.
We all know who. And sometimes it's just better to have somebody who brings that energy every day.
Yeah. And it's funny, coach, because both of these guys, there's kind of family connections, with Catchings. It's his aunt Tamika, and Jim Tanner was her agent for so long. With Jarin, it's literally grew up in Chapel Hill, and his mom played at Carolina. And so there's both of those are real things. And so I think that, sometimes you think, oh man, that family connection, that's already in place and you want to, but it's like, yeah, it's already there for both of them. So that doesn't help your cause either. And it just, man, it's so difficult. Now, coach, go ahead. Sorry.
What was horrifying for me is to realize that Harvey Catchings was his grandfather. Yeah. And I remember watching him as a kid, and I'm sitting there going, there's no way this can be his grandson now, playing college basketball. But time does go very, very quickly.
And here we are. Yeah, that's tough to reckon with, coach, for sure. I mean, and then you look at the shape, so much of it is, what don't we have? Like I for those watching on YouTube, I've pulled up the scholarship chart, and we think about the depth at these various positions. At the 5 right now, there's Henry Vasar, there's Van Allen Lubin behind him, James Brown, who continues to develop. At the 4 right now, you've got Caleb Wilson. I would imagine we'll see, assuming as of right now, our sources are that Zayden High is going to be on this roster, but things are fluid sometimes, so we'll see there. But then if you bring in either one of these guys, they're part of that front court rotation, sliding down potentially to the 3 if Drake Powell is there. Maybe Jonathan Powell slides up to play a little bit. So there's just all these different conversations with it, coach. As you look at the shape of what the roster is now, does that help one of these guys stick out to you more than the other? I
think they're both able to be flexible to be able to play multiple positions. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. Stevenson's obviously a little bit bigger, but he's still not really a 5. and I don't
Yep.
think they want him 5.
No.
So
Nope.
I mean, I don't think it really matters that way or another. It goes back. We talked about this a long time ago, but the conversation I had with Coach Williams when I used to go to camp, I knew I'd have 30 seconds with him. I want to ask one real quick question that maybe I could just end. When you have one spot left, do you try to fill it with a specific position, or do you just get the best talent? And Coach didn't even hesitate. He says, "You just find the best talent you possibly can, and you'll figure it out." And I think that's really what they're looking for. Who do they, with watching film and what they know, and they dive in. We watch highlights. They're going to go back and watch every possession.
Every second. That's right.
Got to be able to come up with a definitive, this kid's better than the other kid. And once they figure out what that is, we don't have the time to do that. It's not our job. But I think that once they find that out, that's who they're going to really push for.
So, Coach, even that said, obviously you have less eyeball time on these guys. I know that's a weird way to put it, but I'll say it that way. You haven't had the insider meetings with them that the coaching staff has. So I get it. We're looking at it with less information at our fingertips. That said, given that Coach Williams' phrase and comment, which one of these guys to you is that better talent?
Me personally, I like Stevenson. And it's some of it's the hometown boy. I just like to have him coming back home and knowing that family and friends will be around. I know sometimes they can be a negative, but a lot of times that's a positive. You got, mom's cooking, grandma's cooking, or whatever. It just makes things better. And just being able to feel comfortable at home. And yeah, he's a little bit bigger. He only has 2 years, but let's be honest. If he has a great year, he's going to be leaving anyway. But
that's right.
Let's build this team for 1 year. Let's bring him back home. And again, if it's catchings, really not disappointed either. I think they're both great options.
Man, that's good. I like it. Okay, very good. Now, part of this is we are hoping and expecting maybe Drake Powell to stick around. And boy, a second year of Drake Powell. We saw glimpses and pieces of it in year one, but I think he would be a critical part of Carolina really growing as a team. And I know the coaching staff is doing everything they can to hold on to him. So I want to talk to Coach here in just a second and get his thoughts on why Drake Powell is such an important key cog in the wheel for the 25-26 Tar Heels. We'll do that in just a second. Right after I tell you about TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. But now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All of that so you can get the most money back, guaranteed. There's no waiting, no wondering, and no worrying. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only available in the iOS mobile app. And you can see guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. We go from talking about bringing in a transfer to retaining a current member of the Tar Heels. Coach, we've already seen one of the freshmen out the door in Ian Jackson. We expect James Brown to stick around, although, never know what could happen in the transfer portal. But with the other member of this class, Drake Powell, he's the guy that in some ways before the season and in some of the recruiting services actually ended up being ranked higher than Ian Jackson. Obviously, Ian's out the door. He's actually visiting St. John's this weekend, was the report on Thursday. But my question to you, just very generally, what is it about Drake Powell in your mind that makes him so critical to Carolina's success next season?
Yeah, I had a really weird experience in the airport on Tuesday. But walking to the bathroom, we had a long delay and just kind of wandering around. The guy in front of me was phone and he said, you got to play defense if you're playing for Rick. And I don't know how this is going to work. So I just started following this guy around, and he's talking about Ian leaving. I thought it was hilarious because, that's the whole speculation about Ian leaving. But I didn't want to think the guy was, I was a creepy. So I just I let him go for a little bit. But he did look back at me at one point. I was just absolutely listening to everything he was saying. It was hilarious. But I think
a random guy. It's just a random guy in the airport.
Just walking down the airport talking about Ian Jackson. RJ, you're talking about RJ first, and then I'm like, oh, RJ. And then he started talking about
Davis or RJ Lewis.
he was talking about RJ was he felt was the only guard who really was consistent last year, is how he said that. So when
Gotcha.
I heard that, that's what clicked. And I'm like, I'm going to follow this guy around for a little bit. But it was an interesting weekend, let's just say. No, I think Drake is hugely important. I think he's you're not going to build your whole team on him, but you have to have somebody that is going to be consistent every night to give you both great effort on the offensive end and defense, especially the defensive end, and somebody you can just rely upon. You know he's going to get a certain amount of minutes. You know he's going to do a great job defensively. Some nights he'll score, some nights he won't, but he's going to have great impact regardless.
What was interesting to me, Coach, is it felt like, in that the stretch run of the season, when Carolina made the switch in the lineup, brought in Jay Witt and Van Allen as the starting 4 and 5, and that allowed Drake to go to his more natural small forward position. What is it about being back in that where it's like, okay, this is what's comfortable, this is what I know, that really kind of unlocks a player?
Yeah, you want to get to the point where, as a player, you become, and we can talk more about this later, but unconscious competent. You don't have to think about it anymore. So this is what I know. This is what I'm used to. I'm not even thinking about it anymore. I'm just letting my talent flow from out within me, and that's really how he looked. He didn't really look comfortable at the 4. When he got to the 3, he looked much more comfortable. So you're not thinking about things anymore. You're not thinking about how I have to be here or there. You're just playing basketball the way. And once you get to that point where you're competent, unconsciously playing that way, that's when the game just seems to flow much better.
I like that. And I mean, what's interesting when you look at on sportsreference.com on defensive box plus minus, which is just a good solid thing, Drake rated slightly better than even Seth as the number 1 defensive box plus minus player on Carolina last year. And so, I mean, it's like a big deal. And we're in an era now, Coach, where you've got to recruit your own guys with the same vehemence that you do of guys in the portal or incoming freshmen or whatever it is. And so if you're Coach Davis, how are you talking to Drake as he navigates, like, do I go test in the draft? Right. And obviously we don't know what information he got back from the UAC. What's the name of that committee? I can't think of what it stands for, but the committee that basically gives you a grade after, talking to the NBA folks about where things are at. So there's all of that to navigate, Coach. How do you go about handling those conversations?
Yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask right now because I'm a little wounded myself right now. My best 2 players are leaving. Postseason meetings came in. Both of them told me they were staying. And then both of them came back and said, one of them came back later that night to my house, drove to my house to tell me that he had decided that he's not going to be coming back. So it's a new world. It's only if it's trickling down to the NEI, it's everywhere, and it's really frustrating. So the thing that really hurts for me is when you have guys that sit there and hug you and tell you they love you all year long, and then say, "Oh, I'm leaving," and it just hurts because we've invested a lot in these guys, and Hubert's the same way. He's got those type of relationships, love you man type relationships, and you spend a lot of time with them, and then when they decide to go, it's very difficult, and it can set you back a little bit if you let it. But you have to realize more and more it's about business. Even if the decisions they make don't make sense, you still have to let them grow and go, and that's hard to say.
Coach, in a world where Drake does come back, whether it's, just straight back or whether he goes through the draft process and decides to come back, which why wouldn't you, right? Like, I mean, it just seems to make sense. If he does leave, Carolina's going to have to fill that void. Right now, it seems like Catchings or Stevenson. If Drake Powell leaves, I would imagine they would go for 2, and maybe at that point you try to get both of those dudes. Or would it be because of Drake leaving, maybe there's an even different type of player and you still just want one of Catchings or Stevenson?
I think the NBA, going in through the process helped Harrison Ingram, and I think maybe that's what they could say. Like, hey, let's just go through and see what's going on. I get the feeling, and again, I don't know Drake at all. I mean, we've met. I think he's. I mean, my first impression, very, very impressed. He's a very impressive young man. I would think that he's going to make the right decision, make it quickly, and just be back all in. But I do think that if for whatever reason, if he decided to go, if they found out he was going to be a first round draft pick, and he decided to go, those two people might not be the best to get both of them. I think it would maybe try to get a little different type of player. And again, we struggled shooting three last year. Maybe get another shooter in there.
I wondered. Yep.
I love Jonathan. Was it Jonathan Powell? I mean, he
Yeah.
can really shoot big
Yep.
too, and got length and stuff that we talked about. But
And Evans is a great shooter as well, who they just got. Yeah.
never have enough shooting. I
Yep.
mean, we all know that.
Yep, I'm right with you. I think I would still only take one of Catchings and Stevenson and then go for shoot in the event that Drake leaves, go for shooting in the other. Now, one more question about Drake. I just asked you that hypothetical if he leaves. If Drake stays, what are your expectations of his sophomore leap?
I think the leadership is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking at stats. I'm not looking at those type of things. Maybe minutes, but I am looking to see him become more of a leader because I think he's the type of player because he does things the right way, offensively, defensively, on the court, off the court. He needs to step up more in a leadership role because he's going to be on the floor, and you have to have your leaders have to be playing. And I'd like to see him step up more and be more vocal. And I think he's got the ability to do that. Very likable. I think that everybody would follow him.
Yeah, that's a good word, man. He is just a likable kid. Just watching him, how he carries himself. I'm right with that, Coach. I love it. Okay, you guys, we got to turn the clock back to last weekend. Coach Rob, as he always does, and his guys and his own son were out in San Antonio for the Final Four. Got to take in all three games. Some great, crazy, fun stories there. But obviously, got to see three really, really good contended basketball games, including Duke going down to Houston. And so we will talk about all those coming up in just a second. All right, Coach, man, as always, you got to have some great experiences down in San Antonio, not just the basketball games. I know you and your guys had several other things you did, but man, three great college basketball games. And I know it was a blast to be in the Alamo Dome for those. I'm just going to give you the floor and let you take it and run with it wherever you want to go.
Yeah, it was just an unbelievable weekend. And I do take my book with me everywhere I go. I had it in my backpack, just getting on the plane from Atlanta, getting ready to head to San Antonio. And one of my assistants, Ben Willis, is in front of me. All of a sudden, he turns around and looks at me with these big eyes. And I'm like, what? And I look down, and Ernie Johnson's sitting in first class. So I excused myself. I know a lady behind me thought I was crazy because I'm headed back out just enough to get close enough, got my book out, and just tapped him on the shoulder and said, Ernie, I met you one time. Bill Harris's retirement party was my coach in college, and I just want to give you the book. He took it, said, thanks, start looking at it right away. And then Monday, got an opportunity to, before we head to the championship game, to go to the Alamo. We saw that the ESPN had set up their tents and stuff, and there's Jay Billis doing his pre-game talk about the championship game that night. And as soon as he got done, walked out, I was able to give him a book too. So for the book, it was really cool to be able to get that book in those two guys' hands was really special. But could go to NEI meetings, and then had a really cool meeting on Sunday night or Thursday night with assistant coaches from Boston College, Kansas State, Missouri, former coach from Miami, just got fired when Larinaga left. But just a really cool group of young, big-time assistant coaches. Friday night, got to go to the Spurs. Got to see Harrison Barnes miss a layup that would have won the game. They lost, but it was a crazy comeback. So that was
He had a game winner on Wednesday night, right?
The game winner, and so it's just been a wild ride for him too. But Saturday morning, we got to go to the Legends of the Hardwood Breakfast. Monty Williams was awarded a really cool John Wooden Award is what it is. So he was honored with that. So we got a really cool opportunity. Sage Steele used to be with ESPN.
Yeah.
Was the MC. We got tickets to the VIP behind the scenes thing afterwards, which was really neat. And then Willie and I got to go to the games on Saturday. Got sit next to a guy. You could tell he's from New York. We hit it right off because I'm from Jersey. And then all of a sudden it starts coming out. Find out his name is Coach Bob Starkman. Took over at Kaiser University NAI school after a guy by the name of Dante Calabria had coached down there. So, Dante? Yeah, Huey. We got talking, and he said, well, you coming back Monday? I said, well, I only got 2 tickets. My assistants are here. My son and I are going to give my 2 tickets to my assistants so they can come on Monday for the championship. He says, well, I'm not coming back Monday. Do you want my 2 tickets? Here's my phone. Just transfer the tickets over. All you got to do is buy me and a buddy a popcorn and a drink each. A bucket of popcorn and 2 waters. And Willie got a water for me too. I think it was $50, but totally worth getting 2 free tickets for Monday night. So we all got to go to the game on Monday. Sunday, we got to go to the San Antonio Missions baseball game, Double A San Diego Padres. So that was cool. I now have a chanclas hat because their alter ego is the flying sandal, which I'll show you. I'll send you a picture. It's hilarious.
Okay.
Right from there to the Alamo, got to see the Alamo, and then we were too tired to stick around and stand in line for Chris Stapleton. And then Monday got to take Willie back to the airport and then head to the championship game, and it was fantastic. Just an unbelievable weekend.
Man, we'll let Coach get a drink there. The coffin bug has caught him. Just so many fun experiences all around San Antonio there. I love that y'all got to take all that in. Coach, the games themselves, obviously we had the Florida-Auburn matchup to kick things off Saturday night, and then Duke-Houston later on. I got to be honest, I thought that first game, the Auburn-Florida game, I was like, man, I don't know how Houston-Duke is going to live up to this, because that was a great game. And then here comes this Duke-Houston game, Coach. I'm very curious. It felt like the energy in the arena as the Duke-Houston game was going down the stretch felt odd or strange. Was I picking up on that correctly?
Yeah, it definitely was. I also ran into Coach Williams and Wanda and Marcus Page. I forgot that. I don't want to forget Coach Williams. Got to give him a shout out. But it was really odd because they got to the point and Willie looked at me, and we were just the two of us assistants were waiting for us, so we had to go meet them because they're going to drive us back to the Verbo. But we had 2 times where we said, if Duke scores here, we're just going to leave. Oh, we better stay. Oh, if Duke scores here, we're definitely going to leave. We'll get out before oh, no, we better stay. And then I looked at him, I was like, is this really happening? This is really happening. Like, there's no way this is happening. And it certainly absolutely did. It was just absolutely crazy. It was worth it just to see the stunned looks on the Duke fans as they left. They just didn't know what happened. And it was glorious. It was just one of the best events of the whole weekend.
Man, it was so, yeah, like with my national coverage, I had already started like prepping my notes for our live show we had to do after the game, just with, all right, Houston, Florida for the national championship. Like I was already writing all that out in my notes and prepping for our show. And that was my assumption of what was going to happen. So just like you guys, I was kind of selling on Houston having a shot. And then it started happening, and it was weird. So then, Coach, as we get down to those final moments, like did the energy change? It felt like, as Houston started coming on, it was like people started realizing it, and it got crazy.
Our seats were behind the Duke student section, and we were way up underneath, so we weren't anywhere close. We couldn't see Knippel's kick. We didn't understand why everybody was so upset. And the Houston side, so, I mean, it's a big arena, obviously, 68,000 people there. But on the dunk, the tip dunk towards the end there, and that flag fouled him so bad, and they didn't call it. But if they had called it and he made the free throw, that would have tied it. Then Houston wouldn't have fouled. But because they didn't call it, now they're down 1. Now they have to go down and foul. Now they missed the free throw. Cooper, I mean, in real time, and we were at that end, it looked like a foul to us. I just grabbed Willie. He fouled him. He fouled him. And everybody's arguing, well, was it a foul? Was it not a foul? It sure looked like a foul.
Yeah.
In live time. So just couldn't believe it happened the way it happened. It just all happened. And it happened so fast.
It did.
All of a sudden it was done. And you're like, it was almost like in Phoenix when Carolina won it. And, everything happened so with it. I mean, and it was over. And even the ending championship game ending. I actually filmed that. I got that on my phone, but it was over, and you kept expecting more time or a jump, hell ball or something going, and it just was done. It was just a wild weekend. We did stay to watch one shining moment too, which is it's one thing to watch on TV. It's a really cool thing to see it in the arena.
Yeah. Man, I felt so bad for Emmanuel Sharp there not being able to get off a shot, and literally in the Duke game, he had pump fake sidestepped and hit that 3-pointer that was critical. And like, had he done that same thing in this moment and let Walter Clayton fly by, there was not a Florida Gator within 18 years of him, and has a 41% 3-point shooter, has a wide open look to win the national championship if he pump fakes, but he doesn't. And the result is the result. I mean, it's just the butterfly effect of that, Coach, is crazy to me.
Yeah, and to see Walter Clayton Jr. go around and check on guys from the other team, I thought that was a really classy thing to do. And these guys know each other way better than the old days, with social media, with AAU, with all traveling they do. Just thought that was really classy.
Yeah, agreed, man. A big time move by a guy that you would have understood if he had just gone on to celebrate with his team. But there's just something of, I almost feel like he knew, like, had Emmanuel hit that shot, that shoe would be on my foot, and I like, he was just on the other side of having the same emotions those guys were, and I think he understood that in real time. And that, as you said, well done by him. Well, Coach, so glad you got to, as always, have those great experiences. Man, got to be one of the best Final Fours in a long time, all told, all 3 games put together. Folks, let me quickly take us through the weekend whip around of what's happening with Carolina athletics, and then we'll get out of here. Baseball is hosting Wake Forest. They kind of moved the schedule around. The first game was actually on Thursday night. As we're recording here in real time, it's not even pulling up the score. I don't know what it is. Maybe it hadn't actually started yet, but I thought it had. Anyway, the other games are Saturday and Sunday, both at 1 p.m. The Saturday game's ESPN2, the Sunday game on ACC Network Extra. Softball is hosting Georgia Tech this weekend, 6 tonight, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Those games are on ACC Network Extra and ESPN2, respectively. Women's tennis is hosting the 2 Florida schools this weekend to wrap up the regular season. Miami tomorrow at noon, and then FSU Sunday at noon. Men are playing Duke Saturday at 4, a little bit later on after the ladies. Women's lacrosse hosts Cal Sunday, 11 a.m. on ACC Network. Men's lacrosse is at Duke Saturday, 4 p.m. ACC Network. Men's golf, Tar Heel Intercollegiate, Saturday and Sunday. And then track and field is at the Duke Invitational, and that started yesterday on Thursday. So a lot of great action, a lot of Carolina Duke this weekend going on. And so we'll see what happens with all of those. Best of luck to all those Tar Heel teams. Obviously, we'll have the results from that on Monday. If there are any more commitments this weekend, if either Catchings or Stevenson pulls the trigger, obviously I'll be back with the live to unpack that and talk about what it means for the Tar Heels. You guys, big thanks as always to Coach Rob for joining me and regaling us with his great experiences this weekend. Always look forward to hearing those. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on YouTube, make sure you do that right now. Same on the audio platforms. I said it earlier, but if you're not an insider yet, we'd love to have you there. Dropping all of my portal knowledge and rumors and insights and all of that only to those insiders first. That link is in the show notes, as is the link for Locked On Tar Heels Discord, where we are, as of last check, 5 people away from hitting 500 users on there. It's great to have a big community of Tar Heels fans. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be right back together on Monday, but until then, peace.